You've seen the stats, but have you felt the buzz? Jason Whitlock just dropped a truth bomb about Caitlin Clark that's shaking up the WNBA. He's not just talking numbers, he's talking star power. And guess what? It's making some people real uncomfortable. Let's break down why Whitlock thinks the league might be pushing an anti-Clark agenda. Alright, you won't believe what Jason Whitlock just said about Caitlin Clark. He called her the most valuable player in WNBA history. Can you believe that? A rookie. But here's the thing. Whitlock's not just throwing around praise. He's making a huge statement about what really matters in women's basketball. So what's Whitlock talking about when he says Clark is box office? It's not just about stats on a sheet, it's about the electricity she brings to the game. When Clark steps on the court, fans aren't just watching. They're on the edge of their seats. They're holding their breath every time she touches the ball. That's the kind of excitement that sells tickets and gets people tuning in. Think about it. When's the last time you heard people buzzing about a WNBA game like they do when Clark plays? She's not just scoring points, she's creating moments. Those no-look passes, those deep threes. That's the stuff that gets shared all over social media. That's what gets people talking about women's basketball at work the next day. Now you might be wondering, don't points and rebounds matter? Sure they do, but here's where it gets really interesting. Whitlock's saying those traditional stats aren't enough anymore. The WNBA needs more than just solid players. It needs superstars. It needs players who can do things that make you say, wow, every single game. And that's exactly what Clark brings to the table. Whitlock points out that her game looks more like a man's game, and before you get upset, hear him out. He's talking about her quick dribble, her decision-making, her court vision. It's a style of play that's fast, exciting, and unpredictable. It's the kind of basketball that keeps fans coming back for more. But it's not just about how Clark plays. It's about what she represents for the future of the WNBA. Whitlock's arguing that she's changing fan expectations. People aren't just showing up to support women's basketball anymore. They're showing up to be entertained. They want to see amazing plays, clutch moments, and games that keep them on the edge of their seats until the final buzzer. And that's where Clark shines. She's not just a great player, she's a great showman. Every game she plays is an event. People aren't just checking the box scores the next day, they're tuning in live because they don't want to miss what she might do next. This is huge for the WNBA. It's not just about Clark's individual success, it's about what she could do for the entire league. Imagine if every team had a player who could generate this kind of excitement. Imagine arenas packed with fans, all there to see what incredible things might happen on the court. Now let's talk about Angel Reese. You might think she's on top of the world with her double-double streak, right? Well, Jason Whitlock just dropped a bombshell that's got everyone talking. He said no one cares about these records. Harsh, right? But wait till you hear why. Whitlock's not just throwing shade. He's pointing out something big about how we measure success in women's basketball. See, the WNBA's been pushing Reese's achievements hard. They're all over social media, talking about her streak like it's the best thing since sliced bread. But Whitlock's saying, hold up, is this really what fans want to see? He thinks the WNBA's using Reese's stats to try and counter Caitlin Clark's popularity. It's like they're saying, hey, look over here. We've got records being broken. But Whitlock's not buying it. He says, they want to focus everyone's attention on box score because they don't like the person who's bringing the box office. So why does Whitlock think these double-doubles aren't a big deal? He's got some pretty strong opinions on this. He says, this thing is just made up. No one knows who had the previous record. Ouch. But he's got a point. In the grand scheme of things, do these records really mean anything if no one's keeping track? But it's not just about the records. Whitlock's taking aim at the quality of play in the WNBA too. He's suggesting that getting a double-double in the WNBA might not be as impressive as it sounds. It's like he's saying, sure, you can rack up stats, but are you really changing the game? This is where it gets really interesting. Whitlock's drawing a line between what looks good on paper and what actually gets fans excited. He says about Reese, you check her box score, you don't go to the games. That's a big statement. He's saying all these impressive stats don't translate to butts in seats or eyes on screens. So what's the real impact here? Whitlock's challenging how we value players in the WNBA. Is it all about the numbers, or is there something more important? He's saying there's a big difference between being statistically impressive and being a game changer for the league. Think about it. When you hear about a player breaking records, does that make you want to tune in? Or are you more likely to watch when you hear about amazing plays, clutch moments, and nail-biting finishes? Whitlock's betting it's the latter. This whole debate is exposing a real tension in women's basketball. On one side, you've got traditional measures of success: your points, your rebounds, your double-doubles. On the other, you've got this idea of box office appeal, the ability to excite fans, fill arenas, and grow the game. Whitlock's not pulling any punches here. He's saying, this whole double-double thing, man, people are gonna realize. He thinks fans are gonna wake up and see that these stats don't tell the whole story. It's a bold claim, and it's got people talking. So where does this leave players like Angel Reese? She's clearly talented, no one's denying that. But Whitlock's argument suggests that talent alone might not be enough anymore. The WNBA needs players who can do more than just put up numbers. They need players who can capture the imagination, who can make people fall in love with the game. You might think the Rookie of the Year debate is just about new players, but it's way bigger than that. Jason Whitlock just dropped a bombshell that's got everyone talking. He's not just saying Caitlin Clark should be Rookie of the Year, he's saying she might be the league's MVP. Can you believe that? A rookie, potentially the most valuable player in the entire WNBA. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, how can a rookie be MVP? But Whitlock's not playing around here. He's saying Clark isn't just good for a newcomer, she's changing the game entirely, and he's got some pretty strong words to back it up. Whitlock called Clark the most valuable player in WNBA history. That's not just praise, that's a seismic shift in how we think about value in women's basketball. He's saying Clark's impact goes way beyond points and assists. It's about what she brings to the game that no one else does. So, what makes Clark so special? It's not just her skills, though those are pretty impressive. It's about the excitement she generates. When Clark steps on the court, people pay attention. They're not just watching, they're invested. They're talking about her plays the next day. They're sharing her highlights on social media. In Whitlock's words, she's box office. This is where it gets controversial. Whitlock's basically saying that traditional stats don't tell the whole story. Sure, other players might be putting up impressive numbers, but are they filling seats? Are they getting people excited about women's basketball? According to Whitlock, that's where Clark stands out. He's challenging the very idea of what makes a player valuable. It's not just about being good at basketball, it's about being good for basketball. Clark's style of play, her marketability, her ability to draw in fans, Whitlock's saying these things matter just as much as, if not more than, traditional metrics. But here's where it gets really interesting. This debate isn't just about Clark. It's exposing some deep issues in the WNBA. How do we recognize talent? What kind of players does the league need to grow? Are we focusing too much on stats and not enough on star power? Whitlock's taking aim at the whole system. He's saying the WNBA needs to rethink how it values players if it wants to thrive. It's not enough to have solid players putting up good numbers. The league needs stars, players who can capture the imagination of fans and bring new eyes to the sport. This is huge for the future of women's basketball. If Whitlock's right, it could mean a complete shift in how teams draft, how players are marketed, even how the game is played. Imagine a WNBA where every team is looking for their own Caitlin Clark, a player who can electrify the crowd and bring in the fans. Alright, let's talk about the future of women's basketball. Jason Whitlock just dropped a truth bomb that's got everyone talking. He said, "The only numbers that count are the sellout crowds and TV ratings." Can you believe that? He's basically saying forget the stats, forget the records. It's all about getting butts in seats and eyes on screens. Now you might be thinking, why does this matter? Well, it's huge for the WNBA's future. Whitlock's saying the league needs to focus on what really gets fans excited. It's not just about having good players, it's about having stars that people want to watch. Think about it. When's the last time you heard people buzzing about a WNBA game like they do when Caitlin Clark plays? That's exactly what Whitlock's talking about. Players like Clark aren't just good at basketball, they're changing the whole game. We're not just talking about better games here. We're talking about a whole new level of excitement. Imagine arenas packed with fans, all there to see what incredible things might happen on the court. Imagine social media blowing up with highlights after every game. That's the kind of energy that could take the WNBA to new heights. But here's where it gets tricky. If the WNBA starts focusing more on these box office players, what does that mean for the rest of the league? What about the players who are great at traditional stats, but maybe don't have that star power? It's not an easy question to answer. On one hand, you've got players who are solid, consistent, and put up good numbers. They're the backbone of their teams. But on the other hand, you've got players who might not always top the stat sheets, but they make plays that get people out of their seats. This could really shake up team dynamics. Imagine you're a coach. Do you build your team around the players with the best stats? Or do you look for players who can draw in the crowds? It's a tough balance to strike. And what about the players themselves? If the league starts valuing box office appeal more than traditional skills, how does that change the way players approach the game? Do they start focusing more on flashy plays instead of solid fundamentals? These are the kinds of questions the WNBA is going to have to grapple with. But here's the thing. If Whitlock's right, it could completely transform the league. Picture this, a WNBA where every game feels like an event, where fans aren't just checking scores, they're tuning in live because they don't want to miss a moment, where highlight reels are going viral and people are talking about women's basketball around the water cooler. That's the future Whitlock's talking about. A future where the WNBA isn't just respected, it's must-see TV, where women's basketball players aren't just athletes, they're superstars. But it's not going to be an easy transition. The league's going to have to find a way to balance the excitement of star power with the team-focused nature of basketball. They'll need to figure out how to market these box office players without overshadowing the rest of the team. And let's not forget about the fans. How will diehard WNBA supporters feel about this shift? Will they embrace the new, more entertainment-focused approach? Or will they feel like something's being lost? One thing's for sure, if the WNBA goes down this path, it's going to change the fan experience in a big way. We might see more interactive elements at games, more focus on player personalities off the court, maybe even changes to the way the game is broadcast.